Hello class, my name is Mr. Mikasa and I want to welcome you to the 2020-2021 school year. I will be your guys' 7th grade social studies instructor for this year, and just right off the bat, just want to guys welcome you once again to the school year and just want to address about how different this school year is going to look compared to other years that you've actually attended school. And the reason why is because this year we'll be doing a remote learning model where you guys will be staying at home and accessing materials remotely and learning at your own pace by using Schoology. So just to give you guys a heads up of pretty much what the year is going to look like, it's going to look like this for the first part of it anyways, where basically you'll be looking at lessons that will be done by video, you'll then work on an assignment from home, and you'll be working on this sense. Now the purpose of this video, of course, we'll be talking about our course syllabus. We'll be talking about exactly what you can expect in terms of content, assignments, ways that you'll be assessed for 7th grade social studies, and we'll be doing that by going over the course syllabus for today, and that's exactly what we'll be talking about. So as you can see here, we're actually doing my little video here. This is a screenshot of my entire laptop. This is of my desktop that you can see here. So you can see we have our little cyclone mascot located up here. And whenever I do one of these kind of video lessons, I'll be using my Promethean software here, so that way I can make annotations and, point out things for you guys. The documents is really cool medium for me to use or to teach this material as well. And so this is primarily the way that we'll be doing lessons for the most part. I'll be doing the lessons with screenshots, we'll go for documents, that sort of thing. So like I said before, today what we're doing, of course, is talking about your guys' syllabus, which is located right here. So here's a PDF. You can download this syllabus off of my Schoology page. It's in a PDF format. Now, in case you're wondering what PDF stands for, I'm gonna write that up real quick. PDF. PDF is a file format for documents. It stands for portable document format. That's what it stands for. And the nice thing about that file type is that regardless of what operating system you're using, whether you're using a PC or a Mac, or if you're using Mac iOS for Apple products, or if you're using Android for Android devices, regardless of what format you use, PDF can be opened up by all of them, and that's the reason why all my files will be in PDF format. So if you guys want to open up this file for the course syllabus in your guys' Schoology page and open that up and follow along with me, that would be actually the best. So let's go on and talk about this real quick. So this will be my syllabus for both my 7th grade as well as my 7th grade advanced social studies classes. And this year in 7th grade social studies, you guys will be focusing on the Eastern Hemisphere. So last year you guys focused on the Western Hemisphere, where you looked at both North and South America. This year we're flying on the other side of the globe and concentrating on the Eastern Hemisphere. So I'm going to highlight this document as we read through it and talk about the various aspects of it. So first of all, let's go talk about your guys' course description. So it says this year, the 7th grade social studies curriculum will concentrate on the Eastern Hemisphere. So like I said before, you guys looked at the Western Hemisphere last year with North and South America. This year, you're looking at the other half of the planet. So we're looking at Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, as well as parts of Antarctica as well. It says at the conclusion of this class, students will be able to identify and analyze the Eastern Hemisphere geographically, by region, and by continent. They will also describe contributions made by ancient and modern civilization. This goal will be achieved through the use of primary documents, political and physical mapping, simulations, class discussions, student texts, and audio-visual resources. So basically, what does that mean? Basically, what that means is that not only will you be able to look at the Eastern Hemisphere in terms of geography and by region, but we're looking at its history as well, and you'll do this through various methods. Primary sources, political physical mapping. If we ever get back together as a class, we'll do simulation activities, but we'll talk about that later. Class discussions, student text, as well as audiovisual resources. So this pretty much kind of breaks down what the entire course is about. Now, moving on from there, let me go and clear out my annotations here. Let's go and talk about your guys' Colorado assessment standards and how your class will be laid out. So, first of all, in our class, we'll be, of course, addressing Colorado assessment standards in this one. Now, if you're wondering what Colorado assessment standards are, it's pretty simple. Colorado assessment standards are the items that are required by the state that I teach you guys. These are the content knowledge they want you to cover in the course of social studies. So the first thing, of course, one of the things that we have for Colorado assessment standards, we'll be looking at the history of each of these regions. We'll also be looking about the geography, so the physical geography as well as the political geography of those locations. We're looking at economics, and this one's actually kind of interesting because this one's more appropriate now than ever, given the time period that we're living in right now. So we'll be looking at the economics of the Eastern Hemisphere as well. And lastly, we'll be looking at the civics, which is pretty much the government and the politics of the Eastern Hemisphere as well. And that's pretty much how we'll be addressing those standards throughout the entirety of the year. Now, as for your guys' content, what I like to do is I like to break up your guys' content into units. And as your syllabus reads, it says the curriculum of the course will be divided up into 6 units. So you guys will have 6 units. These will be anywhere between 5 to 6 weeks in length. each focusing on a particular aspect of the Eastern Hemisphere. So the unit as follows. So what we have here, Unit 1 will be in Ancient Europe, Unit 2 will be in Modern Europe, Unit 3 will be in the Middle East, Unit 4 will focusing on Africa, 5th will be on South Asia, and then finally Unit 6 will be East Asia as well as Oceania, which also includes parts of Antarctica, Australia, as well as the Pacific Islands. So this is the content knowledge you guys will be covering over for the year, okay? This is the material that we're covering over. But more than that, more than the content knowledge, the thing that I'm going to be focusing the most throughout this year are on social studies skills, all right? Forgive me for my sloppy handwriting on this. I'm using a mouse in order to write these words out, so I do apologize if they look kind of weird on your guys' screen. So like I said before, the main focus I'll be focusing on are social studies skills, right? The skills are things that I'm going to be focusing on the most for you guys. And the reason why is because regardless of what content you're talking about, you could take these skills and you can apply it no matter what kind of material we're covering. So when you guys are working on the assignments for my class and assessments, you'll notice that a lot of the assessments, no matter what unit we're in, are very, very similar. For example, mapping, the ability to create maps. We'll be doing that for all the units, all right, no matter what unit it is. That's a type of skill. Document analysis, that's another skill. No matter what content we're covering, that skill is universal for all of them as well. Research skills, critical thinking skills. These are the things that we'll be focusing on. And the reason why that's important is because no matter what content you're talking about, those skills can still be used for it no matter what the content is. And that's the reason why we break up into 6 units. The units isn't for the knowledge. The knowledge is really important. Knowing about these areas is really important as well. But more than that, though, the ability to analyze that knowledge, to use that knowledge, to apply that knowledge, that is definitely more important. And that's the reason why we break it up into units like this. Now, let me go and clear out my annotations here, and we'll go ahead and continue on with the syllabus. So let's go and talk about your guys' resources real quick. So first of all, for text and resources, you guys will be using our textbook. Primarily be using our World Cultures and Geography textbook. It's published by McDougall Littell. Now, before you guys worry about that, if you don't have a copy of the textbook, do not worry. And the reason why is because just like this document, the syllabus, I have PDFs and digital copies of the textbook pages that we'll be using in our class. And I will post those up on Schoology so that way you guys can access those. So don't stress about that. Same thing with this second part here where it talks about the DBQ projects, the documents-based questions in world history by Brady and Roden. We also have those in PDFs as well. So any materials that you need to have for my class, I will provide that via portable document format on all of my Schoology lessons and pages. And speaking of Schoology right now will be the most important one that we use right now, especially now since we're doing remote learning. However long we need to do remote learning for until conditions return back to safe levels, I will be posting all of these materials onto my Schoology page. So that way you guys can access that really easily. It's all in one spot. You don't have to go anywhere else to get any materials. It's all in one location. Now this next part where it talks about the Skyview Middle School website, this part is not so much for you, the students, is more, this one is for your parents. So let me go and spell that out real quick for you guys. So this is for your guys' parents for the most part, okay? So if your parents are curious about what you're working on day to day, week by week, what kind of materials you guys are working on, they can take a look at my class website on Skyview so that way they can access the materials. That way they don't have to worry about going to your Schoology page and trying to navigate it. They just can look at my class website and get exactly the same information. So that's the most important part there in terms of resources. Let me go and clear my annotations here, and we're going to move on. So now the next part, which is probably the most important part of the syllabus, is methods of assessment. All right, so we're going to talk about that real quick. So let me highlight that. Methods of assessment. It says success in 7th grade social studies skills is not only based on content knowledge, so like once again, content knowledge being very important, but by the measuring of social studies skills. So this is what we were talking about earlier today when I was talking about your guys' units, all right? So content knowledge is important. That is true, okay? So this is important right here. But I focus primarily on your social studies skills. And the reason why I was able to do that is because what ends up happening is that every single assignment that you work on for me will have a rubric attached to it. All right, those rubrics are called assessment criterion is what they're called. All right, and each one of my assignments has a very specific assessment criterion that I'll be addressing. All right, so let's go and talk about those 4 different types of rubrics that we'll be using. The first type is called knowing understanding. Knowing understanding is your content knowledge based assessments. All right, so this is just general knowledge about the topics that you're talking about. Kind of assignments you can see for those are things like your warm-ups, your race paragraphs, your 2-column notes, content information on your documents-based questions essay, vocab quizzes, those kind of things. The general knowledge of the course. This is the rubric that we have. Now, just to give you guys a heads up about how much I'm serious about the social studies skill, of the 4 rubrics I have, we only have 1 of these for content knowledge. Content knowledge is important, like I said, but what's more important though are the skills of how you apply, use, obtain that knowledge. That's much more important in my opinion. So that's what we'll be focusing on a lot. So let's go on and talk about those social studies skill ones real quick. So let me go and clear my annotations here. So the first of these skills that we're talking about is investigating. And for your investigating one, these are assignments we're talking about for like things like inquiry as well as research-based assessments, right? That's what we're talking about. Things like documents-based questions. If you're not familiar with documents-based questions, pretty much you'll be analyzing primary and secondary sources. Thematic map assessments. Can you find maps, information using graphs, charts, that kind of thing to find information that you need to be successful. Things like research 2-column notes, when you guys conduct research for research projects. These are the kind of assignments you guys can find in your guys' investigating scores, all right? Now, for thinking critically, once again, these are also attached to things like inquiry and research-based assessments. So analysis, examinations of primary and secondary sources. Once again, documents-based questions, also very big on the thinking critically aspect of it. Thematic map assessments, can you analyze data? And from that data, can you guys draw conclusions from those data, okay? I know that kind of sounds like a lot of math. And I know that sounds like a math type of thing. And you're like, wait a minute, math? Yeah, math is really important in social studies. In fact, social studies, in my opinion, is kind of like the subject where we kind of draw from both math as well as from language arts for the most part. But we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail in a second. Things like research projects. These are the things that you can see in your guys' thinking critically scores, okay? And the assignments that you have for that. And probably the last of these is, of course, is communicating. Now, communicating are things like grammar, spelling, formatting on assignments. All right, now this sounds like a lot like language arts. You're probably thinking like, Mr. Mikasa, really? Language arts? Yeah. All right, math, language arts, we use a lot of that in my social studies curriculum, okay? We do a lot of cross-curricular things. Things like MLA formatting on bibliographies and citations, mapping activities, population density assessments. These are the kind of assignments you can expect to see from my communicating rubrics. And like I said before, every single assignment will have a rubric attached to it as well. And we're going to talk about that real quick with my grading policy. So let me go and clear out my little annotations here and move on to our grading policy real quick. So, grading policy. Get the little green highlighter here. It says assignments are graded by using provided rubrics attached to every single assignment. This rubric will detail the expectations and sophistication required to reach the highest levels of assessment. Quarterly grades are then calculated by using the mean. Now, in case you're not sure what the mean is, I explain it here. The mean is the total number of points generated in a grading period divided by the number of points possible. So, for example, if you earn 900 points out of a possible 1,000 points for the quarter, your grade is going to be a 90%, which is an A. All right, so that's an example of what I'm talking about by using the mean on that part. But since we're talking about rubrics real quick, let's go and talk about exactly what that looks like. So I'm going to pull up a copy of one of my rubrics here. So here's that. Let me clear off these annotations. That way you don't block up the screen there. So here's an example of what I'm talking about for my rubrics, all right? And every single one of my assignments will have a rubric that will be attached to it. As you can see, I have 4 different rubrics, one for investigating, one for thinking critically, one for communicating, and I have this one for knowing and understanding. We're going to use the knowing and understanding one because it's just a general rubric that you can use. Now, when you look at my rubrics, the rubrics are divided into multiple parts. So first of all, let's go and talk about this right-hand column here. The right-hand column shows you what the points are for the assignment. It gives you the grade as well as the letter grade associated. So if you want to get an A on assignment, which is anywhere between a 90 to 100%, this is what you need to look at. If you want to get a C on the assignment, a 7 out of 7, this is what you guys would look at here. Now over here on the right hand side, which is in yellow, this portion here, this column, these tell you exactly what you need to do in order to get those scores. So for example, if you want to get 100% on a knowing understanding requirement, it says you, the student, for example, consistently uses a range of vocabulary accurately. So that's one way you need to get 100% on something. You, the student, demonstrates detailed knowledge and understanding of content and concepts through detailed and accurate descriptions, explanations, and examples. All right, that's how you would get 100% on an assignment for this. Let's say, for example, though, you want to get a C on this assignment. So let's go and talk about some of the differences. In the C category, it says you, the student, uses some vocabulary accurately. As you can see, we're using vocabulary accurately the entire time, 100%, whereas in a C one, we're sometimes doing that. All right, so that's a little bit of a differential there. That's where it gets a little bit different. So moving on from that, let's go to the second criterion, for example. It says you, the student, demonstrates satisfactory content and knowledge of concepts through simple descriptions, explanations, and examples. As you can see here, we have simple here, while for this one we have detailed, and not only detailed, but they're also accurate as well. All right, so let's example how you guys' rubrics will be attached to each of your assignments and how you'll be graded. And whenever we go through each of my assignments for you guys, I will talk about the rubrics, and the rubrics will be attached to it as well. Now, for more of my astute viewers, you guys might have noticed this little box here, the 11 plus box. This is for extra credit. Okay, so a lot of kids ask, Mr. Mikasa, do you provide extra credit? Yes, I do. On most of your assignments, you will have an extra credit opportunity. However, to get an extra credit opportunity, to get an extra credit on an assignment, you have to look at the rubric. First of all, it says you achieve the requirements above. That's the first thing, which means that for you to get extra credit, you first have to get 100% on the assignment. All right, that's first of all, because otherwise, there's no point giving you extra credit if you can't get at least 100% on the assignment. There's no point. All right, this is because you've made 100% and you've done other things beyond that. That's how you earn extra credit in my class. And to get extra credit on this, you must exceed the requirements of the assignment's instructions with additional information. So any additional work that you do above what is required for you for the assignment, that is how you guys get extra credit in my class. Okay, so if you want to increase your grade, or if you want to just add extra credit, or if you have a lot of information that you found in the course of your research or project and you want to use that for your extra credit, by all means do so. All right, that's why the keyword being extra here is what we're looking for to get the extra credit on that part. So this is how you guys get your this is how basically your rubric will look like for my classes. All right, so let's go ahead and close that real quick. Now, this next part on missing work as well as late work, we're going to skip that part for right now. And the reason why is because, like I said before, you guys are doing remote learning. There's a lot of you guys might have siblings out there who also got to do remote learning as well. Some of you might not have regular access to the internet in order to do your guys' classes. So because of that, I'm going to be much more flexible when it comes to missing and late work than I usually am, just because you guys are doing remote learning. So we'll cover this when things get back to normal. I'll go over this policy with you guys when things return back to some sense of normalcy. So for now, we're going to skip the missing and the late work part, and we're going to go directly to this bottom part here where it talks about remote learning as well as instruction. We're going to talk about this part because this is exactly what you guys are doing right now. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So for remote learning and instruction, it says Schoology will be utilized as a delivery system for all three phases of learning and will remain the school's platform for remote learning. 7th grade social studies content will be provided through Schoology. You'll find your class syllabus, like we're doing right now, detailing your curriculums to expectations and necessary supplies for remote learning. Daily instruction, interaction, and engagement, posted assignments, discussions, and response expectations, embedded instructional videos, like this one you guys are looking at now, calendar with due dates, and links to other sources. So like I said before, this will be the main way we'll be communicating with you guys through the most with Schoology for this remote learning period, okay? So keep that in mind as you guys are working on that. So now that you know what me as a teacher will be doing for you guys, let's go and talk about your guys' responsibilities. So this is what you are expected to do for Schoology, all right? Students will be held responsible and accountable for the following during remote learning. 1, attendance, all right? So for example, if we have a discussion or a warrant that you guys need to do for my Schoology page, please do that discussion, do that warrant, because that's how we'll be taking attendance. And yes, you can be absent from remote learning if you don't interact with the materials on a daily basis. So keep that in mind, all right? Same thing with participation in class discussions, as well as earning grades on assignments as well. Now, students can't access their classes during their designated time or hour, or when it is convenient for them. And this is why we skip the whole missing and late work aspect of it, okay? So long as you turn in the assignment with the original due date, you're perfectly fine. However, if you're not able to do so, and this is where this part comes in here, it is extremely important that students and parents are aware and adhere to due dates and time. Assignments, responses, and assessments must be completed and submitted. This is very, very important for you guys. Now, I am aware that you guys are working remote learning, so I will be flexible on this, all right? Hold on. Sorry about that, you guys. I am messing up really bad on my handwriting on that one. Well, anyways, I'm going to be extremely flexible for you guys on this, okay? So the big thing that you want to do for me is to make sure that you communicate, all right? Communication is going to be very, very important during this time period. Okay, you guys? So if you have any questions, concerns, if you can't make a due date for whatever mitigating circumstances might pipe up, please let me know ahead of time. I am willing to work with you guys on the flexibility on this one. Like I said, remote learning is a brand new transition for a lot of you guys, including myself. So a lot of interaction between us is going to be very, very important for us to be able to pull this off together and to work collaboratively on this, right? So please do not hesitate to email me or to send a discussion question to me if you have a question or concern about something, okay? Because that's my role. My role here is to help support you guys during this transition from remote learning. So please keep that in mind. All right, you guys? So that pretty much describes up our course syllabus for the year. This pretty much talks about what we're talking about. Like I said, we'll talk about the missing and late work when things turn back to normal. But for the most part, though, that is what you could expect from my class, for my 7th grade and 7th grade advanced social studies classes. So that's going to do it for this lesson, you guys. Go on to the next video after this, which talks about my daily expectations for Schoology. You can watch that lesson as well and participate in the discussion afterwards. So that's going to do it for this, you guys. As always, please feel free to discuss or ask a question if you have any questions or concerns. I'm more than helping to help you guys out. So that's going to do it for this lesson, you guys. I will catch you guys in the next one. You guys keep on staying classy and keep on rocking.